Welcome back to Straight Facts on Wednesday, a little earlier than usual, but I'm joined by the gents. Of course, we've got Dom Hussam in the house, the original Don of YouTube, and of course, Judge Mo, aka Mo Gender, the Rage Bait King. And I know that, I recollect, I'm the clickbait king, according to a lot of people. But gentlemen, how are you both? You well?
Big up to everyone. Make sure you guys are liking the video in the comment section. Make sure you guys are subscribing. International break starts, but we're here still doing content, making content. It's we're gonna get you through this tough time. So enjoy the show. Big up to everyone.
Yeah, big up everybody that is here. Like the video, guys. And also, this show is special, though. There's no football that has been played other than the Liverpool bottling, of course, the Cup and the Paris Saint-Germain game, of course, at home at Anfield. So get your questions in. If you want to ask anything, I want to hear what people think about. There's a lot to talk about. Like, there is tons of things to talk about, as you see in the title. But get your questions in. Let us know what you guys think. Whatever tough questions, Liverpool fall off.
They're asking me who you want to win the Champions League, Inter. I'm like, no, because I know more, so I can't.
Yes, well, you're gonna be happy for me.
No, I won't be happy.
Win the league.
So
why am I gonna be happy? I'm irritated. Let me hold on. Let me ask you a question. Yesterday, on the stream that Osam did, the charity stream on his channel, big up Osam and big up Patrick, of course. Osam introduced himself as the humble guy, and I said, Osam is very far from humble.
I am humble. Stop it.
And I said that Osam is very far from humble. Listen, Terry, you actually introduced me to Osam. Do you think Osam is a humble man?
I am.
I said he's way far from humble.
I'll tell you when he's humble. I'll tell you, Hussam is humble only in the moment that you're praising him. Outside of that, no, I wouldn't call him arrogant, but he is a very confident young man.
I told him there's a difference between confidence and arrogance. It's good to be confident rather than not confident. Nothing good with a bit of confidence. Nothing wrong with a bit of confidence.
Absolutely. Yeah. And look, there is loads to talk about today. We're talking about Isak to Arsenal, Isak to Liverpool, and a massive update and development in that potential race. And we're going to be asking a very important question to the panel about that deal. Very important question, so stay with us for that. We're also going to be taking a look at Liverpool as their fans this morning descend into a little bit of panic after a very unsettling update from James Pearce regarding their transfer activity in the forthcoming summer, especially if they do keep a couple of their stars. Is that the right way forward for Liverpool to retain what is likely to be a Premier League trophy? I wanted to start, though, with Chelsea, and I'm starting it with a question. Is Chelsea's project in ruins? Are we watching the crumbling of an empire in front of our very eyes? And I say that because the results haven't been good, the fan base is divided, and of course I know there'll be Chelsea fans in the chat that'll say no, Terry. The answer is no. It's absolutely fair that you have that opinion. But today, Simon Phillips, who again, maybe one of the biggest content creators, one of the biggest journalists and most respected Chelsea fans out there, posted this. And he posted these graphics that show that only Southampton's forwards have underperformed more than Chelsea's attackers this season. The vast majority are underperforming against the expected goals and the chances that they've had. It is the second worst attack at this stage of the season compared to anybody else in that league. We've already seen more youngsters are being purchased as opposed to the experienced players. The experience they bought last summer in Sancho, they may not keep. Already, people are writing off Tosin as not being good enough. Neto, there isn't the output there. Large money has been
Simon
spent.
Phillips tweet, right?
Yes, Simon Phillips tweet talking about this. And I wanted to get you guys' take on that because it feels like Chelsea, since Christmas, are going backwards. Most people do not believe they're going to make Champions League and get that money that's needed to refresh the squad. They're buying more kids. Again, we've seen the deals. There's talk of maybe buying experience, but they're going to have to sell to do that. But who is it they're going to be able to sell? A lot of Chelsea fans are fuming. They're protesting. and they believe the project's in ruins. And I wanted to pose that question to you guys today.
Can I start this with saying something? I actually think lately I've been thinking about it in a different way completely. I think we have been very, very harsh on the ownership. I think we have been only looking at the negative side of this Chelsea project. And there is a lot of negatives. The way they approach the market, the kids not buying striker when they need one, not buying a goalkeeper when they need one, and all this stuff. But we keep forgetting that this ownership also bought Neto when everyone wanted Neto for 60 million from Wolves. Like, this ownership has done some good things for Chelsea. They bought experience. Even Jadon Sancho, even though I think Jadon Sancho should have left England, having a deal for Jadon Sancho for 25 million only, that is a good business for Chelsea, because even if Jadon Sancho is not good, they can redeem him and make profit of him. Tosin on a free, even Hussam and all of us praise that a little bit. Caicedo deal, everyone wanted Caicedo, including Liverpool. So this ownership has done some good. The problem with this ownership is now the rest of the bad things that they do. Not buying the striker when they need, not buying the goalkeeper when they need, hiring Enzo Maresca, changing the direction of, changing the objective of the season. I don't want us to sit here and portray everything that this ownership does is bad. The fact that Neto didn't work, that is not their fault. For example, Darwin Núñez, as a signing for Liverpool, at that time when Liverpool signed Darwin Núñez, nobody thought that Darwin Núñez would be that much of a flop, because he was coming from a 30-plus goal in Portugal. I said in the beginning that Hussam, that he doesn't have some fundamental thing about football.
Before we buy him, but carry on.
You were skeptical about it, but you can't tell me that a guy that has 30 goals. But you get my point, Hussam. Like, a lot of people said that Darwin Núñez is a good signing for Liverpool. Yes, you a little bit overpaid. But I don't want us to sit here and be disingenuous about everything this ownership did is wrong. No, they had some good moments, they had some good signings, and they had some bad ones. People say Malo Gusto. Malo Gusto is a good business. Cheap. Disas is a bad business. But Yashili looked good in the beginning. Here is the problem, and now here is the problem about this Chelsea thing. It's all about what they are trying to do, and they're trying to impersonate Arsenal now. They looked at Arteta, and they said, we're going to get Enzo Maresca.
I knew this was coming. I knew it.
But you know that drill. You know what they're looking for? Now, and watch the PR of Chelsea. I'm going to let you talk now. We're going to get, what is this kid's name? Dibbling from Southampton?
Yes.
We were talking about it yesterday. I was talking about with Shez at the guys yesterday. They're going to get Delap. Okay, that is basically Arsenal's project. You're getting young players up and coming, and you're trying to bring them up and build a team and telling the people that we're going to win trophies in 2-3 years. We're still rising.
As well.
Exactly. Like, in one hand, you are signing the Declan Rices, which is the Caicedos, and in the other hand, you want to sign Delap. Yeah, Delap is a good forward, but I'm sorry, Delap is not the guy that is going to get you up to challenging and win trophies against Man City. He's not. He's just a good player, dribbling as well. So we just don't want to be so harsh on Chelsea in terms of the ownership.
When you say imitating Arsenal, I actually don't think that's not wrong. That's not that wrong. I'll be honest with you. I do think that they are headed more towards the project approach, a lot more towards the project approach than people think, because obviously their core players are all young, and maybe even their 3 best players this season, I'll probably say, are all young. Palmer, Enzo, and Caicedo, all 3 are youngsters. Now, in terms of their attack underperforming, I actually heard what Mo have to say, and I understand what he's saying, because in the summer when they signed Pedro Neto, no one is going oh, he's going to be a flop, he's crap. No one is saying that. When he was at Wolves, many people would have taken Pedro Neto at their club, whether it be backup or a starter. Sancho, same in terms of he played well at Dortmund. He's not that bad. He's experienced player. He got to a Champions League final, so at least he has some form of experience. So I understand where he's coming from, but the problem is with his logic is now if you're saying it's not the ownership fault, then you have to shift the fault to the manager. Then
No,
That's
it
the
is,
reason why.
it is their ownership that they got this manager, and they got him Joao Felix. Man, that's the problem. They have this thing or something. They signed him good players that he should use, like
So it's
Tosin,
Maresca's fault, basically, is what you're saying.
basically, and then getting Enzo Maresca and tell him, here's Joao Felix for you, here's Vega for you. Like, but I don't want Vega, but I don't want Joao Felix. I don't want to use these guys. And then giving him Dewsbury Hall, and he's like, he's not. Why is this guy not using Dewsbury Hall? He used to be coaching this guy last year. Why he's not using him?
I don't think Dewsbury Hall would have made a difference to him.
But why?
Come on, man, Mo. They have Enzo
Yeah,
Caicedo. Like,
Habibi, they paid 35 million pounds for the guy.
yeah, and they're using him for what they paid money for him, which is Conference League Cup games. That's it.
I'm sorry, 35 million pound guy is not a Conference League player. Hussam. It's not.
To them, he is.
I think what's interesting about it, gents, is this. you are right, Mo, when you said at the start of your view that they have bought players that a lot of people wanted. A lot of people liked Joao Felix. A lot of Chelsea fans were excited about Sancho. A lot of people were excited about Neto. And I watched Neto at Wolves and said I'd love him at Man United. And of course, there's been big debates all week. We saw CV and Lee Gunner do the whole who's better, Saka or Neto. I get where Lee Gunner's coming from because he judges players more on the touch and the aesthetics and how they make him feel more so than the output. And I understand it. I wouldn't personally take Neto over Bukayo Saka because the one thing that Neto is doing this season is there hasn't been enough output, although he actually has performed slightly above the XG presented to him. But that leads to a question of, is he getting in goal scoring positions enough? Is he in the position to take shots or be on the end of crosses or for tap-ins? He's an inside forward or winger. How often is he arriving at that back post for a tap-in as an example? It's something that maybe we've got to watch more closely. I get that Chelsea fans are becoming disillusioned with the project and they think it's ruined. I also understand that the owners have tried to do something to make it work and it hasn't happened. Where I think the Chelsea fans that are rejecting this project may end up being proven right is when you look into this summer. They have massively performed. Jackson, Nkunku, Palmer, Felix, Madueke, Mudryk, of course, he's now gone. Even Tyreek George is young, should give him a pass, have all underperformed.
Mudryk is gone where?
Well, he's banned.
He's banned.
He's banned. He's gone.
Oh, yeah, I know. So they're not going to get any money on him.
They might actually tear the contract up.
Yeah, I'm just being out the squad to forget him for a moment. You've got Gyu, who's 0, so he hasn't over or underperformed at all. Sancho and Neto, actually, ironically, are the only two Chelsea forwards who have overachieved on XG. But you compare it like, look how much more game time they've had compared to in the Premier League compared to Nkunku. But
never compare wingers with XG because they're not strikers. You said it before. Wingers create their own.
Hang on. Let me finish explaining. But Nkunku has played a lot of his games out on the left positions and they're moaning, why is he not in the 10? Madueke, has an XG that is nearly 4 times higher than Neto and about 5.5 times higher than Sancho, as an example. Tyreek George, who is, in terms of minutes per game, is higher. They all play the same position. So it's why I don't think you don't just look at the XG. You have to look at, well, is that winger getting into goal scoring positions? Are they creating their own chances? Madueke, I would say with Madueke, he gets into a lot of good goal scoring positions. He actually, unlike Sancho, will run at a fullback, take on and have a shot. He just lacks the quality to finish the chance, as an example. So I think that when you look at Chelsea's attacking line, genuinely, I'm not going to judge young George. He's not had enough game time. Barring Palmer, that's underperforming this season, but we've seen that he can do it. The rest of them, maybe they'll come good in a year or two. I just don't think the rest of them are good enough. And where you've got to look at the project and call it out is, what is the remedy for this? How many will they do? But we've all called out Arsenal for it this year. They've, in my opinion, they stuck with this attack for one season longer than they should have done. This looks like this summer, and we're going to get onto Arsenal later, they're going to address it. I think this summer, it can't be, again, more bets. And I know all players come with a risk of not working, but I think there's a much bigger chance that 17, 18-year-old Kenda, I know he comes in 2026, but we'll use it for hypothetical purposes, there's a much bigger risk he doesn't deliver in an attacking sense than Osimhen or Victor Gyokeres, just due to age, development, experience as an example. They're much better off. There's a much bigger bet of Mbeumo from Brentford or Semenyo from Bournemouth delivering in this team than buying an 18-year-old from South America who not only has not played football in England, hasn't even been to Europe before and is leaving their family and everything else. And I think for me, that's where this question needs a little bit. Yes, you can rage bait people and you can ask questions to wind individuals up. And you said this, and oh, Don, you said this squad was better than Liverpool's. I mean, just factually,
he did say that, which he's a fraud for.
He did, and he'll get called out for it. But aside from the banter, I don't think you can be a self-respecting Chelsea fan who loves your club and not call out the fact that barring Palmer, the rest of your attack is simply not good enough to lead the line for Chelsea week in, week out.
The thing is, like, according to the Athletic,
go on, mate.
According to the Athletic, if you get 55% of your transfers correct, you are a well-run institution. Now, the problem is if you try to speed run the process and try to just do everything quickly, you're going to end up being in this position. Now, Brian Mbeumo that you mentioned, who I rate highly, Pedro Neto was the Brian Mbeumo last summer. Pedro Neto was the guy that was experienced winger, can do this, can do that, blah, 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 blah. So Neto was the player that can make the difference for Chelsea. And they went and they got Pedro Neto. Now, I actually think, like, going forward, though, they aren't showing us, like, anything that's changed. They aren't really showing us, like, them changing their energy with them signing Quenda. And it is for the same money, as you said. Same money that you can get Osimhen, same money you can get these players. So the likelihood of Osimhen coming into Chelsea and scoring goals is way more likely than a youngster and a kid who I understand 5 years from now, 6 years from now can be the best player in the world. But we're talking about the here and now. Here and now, Victor Osimhen is way more likely to do something. And that's the point. That's the point, that you can try to at least mix it up a little bit, because every club buys like some youngster at some point in time that they rate or etc. Even City does it. So, but it's just about like, I don't think Chelsea have the correct mix of things.
But you know what, Sam? Sorry, Terry. The 55 you said, because now in social media time, it is very subjective. Like, a lot of people are saying Sancho hasn't failed. Neto hasn't failed. How do you know that they're not going to come good? And they keep telling you, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe if they buy them a striker, they will come good. And no one analyzes today. Or maybe if Chelsea sells Sancho for £35 million, they made money. It looks like a successful signing. If we sell Joao Felix, it's a very subjective thing.
That's why, Mo, you've got to look at the most successful team in the last decades in England, and that's City. And Omar Barada said this, not at United. He said this when he was at City, that they give every member of staff, essentially, including players, 18 months, potentially 2 years to start delivering at the highest possible level, or they move them on. Of course, youngsters may not be at their optimum best after 18 months, but they're showing the signs that they can deliver. And I get your point. And there's a few comments here that I wanted to show, actually, like saying, is Neto overachieved? Again, he's scored higher than his XG. But this is where Mo's right, and Say My Name also says it. I agree, Mo. You have to watch the games. XG doesn't always tell everything. I agree, because you'll have a player like Neto and Sancho that are above their XG. But I actually think their XG is really low as well. So you have to go, well, why is the XG low? And
they don't get to the dangerous positions.
And Chelsea, because you don't want to shoot, so the XG is 0 at that time.
And as Say My Name here says, Chelsea fans know why Sancho's is low. Because he shimmies left, shimmies right, and then passes it back into midfield. That's why his XG is low, because he doesn't take enough risks in the game.
I hate that type of winger.
And it's why you need to have conversations about this instead of just looking at the numbers. But I think the numbers are an indicator. The others have pretty good numbers of opportunities and getting his goal-scoring positions. The execution has just been off. And you look at Jackson as an example as a lead striker. The biggest mistake Chelsea can make is giving him a third season as the lead number 9, hoping that he can make it. He's already had 2 years. He's already had 2. Now, I'm not saying sell him, but I'm saying give someone else a chance to push him for his position. That might make Jackson better. The new individual might be better and score more goals. And then Jackson's level of performance is supplementary and supports what you're doing. I feel like, and I've seen this at all clubs that struggle, all clubs in the social media era of the game that struggle do this. We get very attached to projects and players more so than the endeavors of the football club. And then our own egos get involved. Oh, I've got to be right about this player. Take it away from Chelsea. Do you remember the conversations? Do you remember the conversations? I guarantee you, give it 3 months, Donny van der Beek will bench Bruno Fernandes.
That's an OG conversation.
And it didn't matter how until now, really. There's some people that are prepared to admit they were wrong, but they blamed Ollie, and then they blamed Ten Hag, and then they blamed the weather.
He was never given a chance. He was never given a run again.
Watch
Big up Johnny. He's moved on to political conversations now.
He did very, very well in the political world.
Yes.
I see it.
I'm happy for him.
And then I'd also look at it like the nail in the coffin in those debates is, well, who comes in and buys that player at the end, and how are they doing at their new club? That's always a key indicator for me for whether you were right or wrong. And I see that going on now in the Chelsea fan base. Now, we've got to give Jackson more time. That's because you made a prediction that Jackson was going to kill it, and it hasn't worked. And you want your club to continue kicking that can down the street in the hope that he has a good 6 months and you can go on socials and say, I was right. When actually the right thing to ask for is that your club go out and buy better to make your team better. Our own egos around what we got right. Like, for instance, I want Ineos to run the club right and get us back to the top. And I don't want it for any other reason than it means Man United are back at the top. I don't want it so I can go, Goldbridge, you were wrong. Simon Jordan, you were wrong. That might be a little bit of fun in there you can have. I want to be right for those reasons. Equally, Goldbridge says this quite a lot. He wants to be wrong for those exact reasons. And for me, we've got to get back to that as football fans, that if you've got a negative opinion or a sort of one that's looked at as downbeat, surely you've got a hope. Like every Arsenal fan who said, I think Kai Havertz is going to be a shit signing, surely they would all want to be wrong. That would make sense to be wrong about that, you know. But yeah, I agree with the XG thing that you say there. This here says context between Arsenal and Chelsea are very different. That's what's baffling with the approach. Arsenal were muddied for 15 years, needed a rebuild. Chelsea had just won the Champions League. Financial resources aren't close as well.
I think that's a true point. This is true, because I don't think Arsenal needed, like Chelsea needed what Arsenal needed at all. And that's just my honest opinion. Like I'm looking at the Chelsea side that won the Champions League. And, you know, despite the copium that was dealt by the Chelsea fans, I called it out at the time. And like, we need all of these players need to leave. And like, no, they don't need to leave. You're just very unaware of the situation. Like even someone like a Koulibaly didn't need to leave, by the way, because he could have done a good job and helped out Chelsea because he was brought in as like a world-class centre-back, essentially. So I do think their starting points are completely different. When Arteta first started, they did need like signings to get to that level. But Chelsea didn't need that because they were already at that level. But they tore it all apart and they bought in like, 300 new players. So,
yeah, I mean, listen.
Can I ask you something, Terry, honestly? Why did you say in the beginning that are we witnessing the fall of a giant?
Yeah.
Do you see the same for Man United? Okay, hold on. Question. Would you say the same about Man United? Why did you label Chelsea that fall of a giant?
Man United have already fell, mate.
So Man United have already fallen. Are you saying that?
Hang on, because I'll answer the question. So for me, firstly, what's going on at Manchester United is completely separate to what's going on at Chelsea in terms of conversations. So me asking a question, have we seen the fall? Isn't me making a statement, first of all. So I haven't made that statement as of this point that they're a fallen giant. I'm asking a question based on the reaction from their fans, the protesting that this isn't going to work, that this isn't the way Chelsea should operate. If you ask me about Man United, we are a fallen giant. We haven't competed for a league title in 12 to 13 years. We haven't been serious in the Champions League for over a decade. We're a club that's almost broke. I believe we're a fallen giant. Now, could we fall further? Potentially, yes. Have we hit complete rock bottom? No, because we could get relegated. We could go into administration. But yeah, we are a fallen giant. At the same time, that helps me recognize when another club's got problems. And I'm someone that looked at Chelsea's project and I understood what they were doing. it made sense. We're going to buy loads early and spend a lot of that. Rather than spending 1.5 billion, let's say 1 billion on the first team, because I know they invested money to flip players with. Instead of spending 1 billion over 5 years, they decided to spend it over the course of 3. They spread the contracts longer. I understood what they were doing. Where I'm just as an outsider now being skeptical is January came and you could have bought some experience. You didn't do it.
Yes.
This summer's coming around now. I think Chelsea have built, I don't think they've built a trash squad. I think the midfield by and large is excellent. I think defensively that they need a leader of a centre back. I think they've got good fullbacks. We know they need a world-class goalkeeper. I think they've got some good attackers, but I think they've got a lot of supplementary attackers, not leaders for Chelsea. They have a lot of, and this might offend Chelsea fans, but if they had a Drogba right now and an Eden Hazard, they may view someone like a Madueke in a similar light to a Solomon Kalou, a good squad.
Yes.
Solomon Kalou would never have been good enough for Chelsea to lead the line as the main attacker for a 2 to 3 year period. He never would. He was a good squad player, good first team member, as it were. I think Chelsea have quite a lot of that. What they now need to add, I don't think buying another group of 18, 19-year-olds and trying to develop them at the same time as trying to develop everybody else is going to lead to them having that peak core that we've seen Chelsea have before. I think what they now need to do is have an adaptation to it. So, but I believe if they don't do that, Chelsea, and they spend the next 2 summers predominantly buying more young kids, I don't know what happens to them after 2 or 3 years' time. I don't see that working. I don't see it getting them back to the top. I thought the whole under 25 policy, I thought it was all a little bit of gamesmanship and charades. I didn't think it was something that would actually happen. So this summer's going to be very, very eye-catching. And I don't think they're a fallen giant yet. I know they haven't competed for a league in 8 years. They haven't won a trophy in 4.
But they are fallen given their Chelsea,
But
they've
fallen from the high standards set in the last 2 decades. I think the next couple of summers are massive for Chelsea. The biggest risk for Chelsea is that they don't make as much money as Man United. They don't make as much money as Man City. They don't make as much money as Real Madrid. Without Champions League football, they have kept their heads above water, and we all know this to be a fact, by selling assets. We know the hotels and things like this. If they don't make Champions League football over the next couple of seasons and start winning those major trophies, that could hurt them even more so than not challenging for a league title. I think the financial stuff, because if this young group don't become the core they want, you're not going to be selling them at a massive profit. How do you then generate the income? I mean, they haven't had a shirt sponsor for a year. I mean, all these little.
By the way, when you're talking about generate profit, not every player is going to generate profit. Quenda could be sold 4 years from now for 40 million. That's a loss. So, like, not every player is going to be sold for a profit. That's something they need to keep in mind as well.
No, this is what I'm saying. Like, some players will be sold at a profit. I mean, on the trading account, it doesn't quite work. If Man United sold Maguire for £5 million this summer, he counts as a profit because we've already paid off his transfer fee. So on that year's trading accounts, it won't. I think Chelsea are they're in this really weird period, and a lot of celebrities talk about this, singers, actors, the like, when they talk about when they made it, when their album came out, or when they got that big film break. And it's at this point where it felt like it was just about to go wrong and they were going to quit. But it's still about making the right decision in that moment, because there's also a lot of actors and singers that also felt that way, and they ended up quitting and working a normal job, and they didn't fulfill their dreams. I think Chelsea have got to get it right this summer, and I think the right approach is experience. If they honestly just go out and buy 4 or 5 young players, I don't see Chelsea.
It's never going to work.
I don't see them coming 10 or 12 next year. I just don't see them being much better than this season. They need a bagsman. They need a top-class centre-back, and they need a world-class goalkeeper. But they do that, and they're in the title race. They do that.
But their trajectory at the current moment, their trajectory, if I'm going to bet, I don't bet. If I'm going to bet, I'm going to tell someone to bet, and if they ask me for advice, which club would you bet on to be more successful in the next 3, 4, 5 years? Man United or Chelsea? I'll bet Chelsea will be more successful than Man United in the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm not saying more successful in terms of like, oh, this club is going to win the Premier League and this club is not. But I think within 3 years, maybe Chelsea will be still in a higher place than Manchester United within 3 years. And that is my point. They haven't fallen yet, because at the end, if they get Champions League this season, which is a possibility,
You're
and
missing
they
the
make
point. They've fallen
all the-
based on their standards.
not everyone is going to win the league every year. And 60, if they get the 60 billion pounds from the Club World Cup in America, that is guaranteed, by the way, it's guaranteed money just for participating. It can raise to 80 to 100 million pounds if you reach a semi-final or a final. I think that solves most of their problems in terms of FFP, to be honest, for this year. Plus the Champions League money, if they get Champions League money as well.
If
So that's
they
why,
get Champions League money,
which is still a big possibility. It's not like
and that's a
it's
big
not like a
possibility they
5%
don't.
chance. Yes, I get your point, but the Club World Cup is a saving grace for them, to be honest. The only problem for Chelsea is that, which is what picking on what Terry said, if I know we have to move on, is that would you be able to keep these players if you don't make Champions League? Will Cole Palmer just sit there and play Conference League and Europa League year
Since
in,
the
year out for
longest
the next 2
Chelsea
years?
went without a trophy, Mo. That's the problem as well. So they're not successful, and if you're not successful and don't even get Champions League football, that is
The
like
problem is
double
they're gonna
whammy.
win Conference League and they're gonna say we won a trophy.
No, I get that. Look, I think they're at risk of becoming a fall. They're probably, some Chelsea fans probably feel like they are fallen giants because they're not challenging for league titles anymore. This summer's massive. You are right. The World Club Cup will generate some income for them, but I still think they need to get back into that Premier League on a Champions League on a regular basis. Because what's also going to happen is if they don't, Caicedo keeps playing this well and Palmer gets back to his best, eventually those players are going to want pay rises, and they're going to want pay rises, which means everybody's salary over the course of time goes up. You need to start generating that income, which comes through success at the end of the day. We'll come back to the Arsenal question a little bit later. Hi, Terry. Last week, your mod, Mama Flossie, timed me out indefinitely for the whole show. All I simply said was mods aren't doing their jobs. Well, I'll have a chat with Mama Flossie about that. Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate that. I know you've always been respectful as far as I can see. But what weren't the mods doing would be more my question. Sorry, it wasn't Mama Flossie. He's saying it was Lou Man. Yeah, but listen, you guys know the only thing we ever want people timed out for or kicked off for is I've got rid of a few people recently by requests of our members, just because every show for 5 years was constant attacks and it was funny and then it just got boring and the viewers. Outside from that, it's the bad stuff, and you know what the bad stuff is. Big up, guys! My favorite show of the week. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that.
Yep,
Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Luke, for encouraging everybody to hit the like button. I appreciate it. RSV says the fact that it has gotten so bad for Chelsea for 3 years under this new regime, I wouldn't even trade them for Ineos, and I have my doubts about Ineos. I will say that about Ineos. One of the things I was talking about earlier on this week is I don't know who we're going to sign first this summer, but I would love it to be someone that's 26 or 27, because there's a lot of fear in the United fan base. We're just going to just buy kids, and you'd almost like the first deal just to. I mean, there's been loads of rumors about our owners though as well. I remember it was only like 2 months ago that everybody was panicking that we were going to suddenly stop putting academy players into the squad, and in fact, youth has played a very important part in the last few weeks. I know we bought them, but like young Heaven coming into the team, Toby Collier returning, and I'm sitting there like United are never going to turn their back on youth. I really wouldn't worry too much about that. Speaking of transfer zone, we're going to come to some more of your comments a little bit later in the show. Thank you very much for all the super chats. I really do appreciate it. Sam, this statement was made today, and it comes out and says, if Van Dijk and Salah sign extensions, no mention of Trent, by the way, less business will need to be conducted this summer. It feels like FSG are briefing and preparing Liverpool fans for, if we keep the 2 stars, we're not really going to spend this summer. I've seen a lot of Liverpool fans panic and get frustrated who have simply said, yes, we've won the league. Yes, it's still going to be a good squad next year. But if you barely invest this summer because you re-sign these 2 on new deals, how damning will that be for your title defense?
Oh, that will be very title defense. That will be very damning for a title defense, because the summer is a very important one. We learned, I hope we have learned from our previous summer where we signed Havertz, Vandenberg and Adrian that it doesn't work. That you do need to refresh the squad, that you do need to spend, that you do need to, try your best to stay at the top. Bad news, Pierce is back at it again. I love the fact that he's only a silver medal now. Hold that. You know, yeah, I can't stand that guy. Me and him have had run-ins on Twitter and stuff, like complete like actual like fights, and but I was completely right, he was completely wrong, as per usual. But
Very humble, always.
listen, when it comes to my club, I know exactly how we operate. There is a rebuild that Tom Little posted on Twitter, and I think that's a lot closer to reality than people might think. You know, when you look at names like Ekitike, Kamara, Hato, Gyokeres, that's more likely what we do. I know people keep talking about Isak. It's a possibility, but it's a very small possibility because I understand what we're operating on. I don't see a world in which we genuinely sign Isak like that, like, because it's a lot of money considering what our budget will probably be. And when it comes to Salah and Van Dijk staying, they have no excuses because it's a contract extension. It's a contract extension, and whatever you're going to like replace Mo and Van Dijk with will cost significantly more than just giving them wages for the next 2 years. Their wage bill, both of them put together, is not going to be worth looking into the market to try find a player. So for me, look, this football club will never have sustained success at the top until Fenway Sports Group are no longer the owners. And it will genuinely never, ever change. They couldn't give a shit, to be honest with you. I don't even think John W. Henry cares if we win the league or not. He doesn't. I know for a fact that he doesn't. He just cares if we finish in the top 4, Champions League money. That's all that they care about. And they are the worst owners in the league, and I do stick by that. They're absolutely horrendous owners. And I would literally, like, I'd rather have Todd Bowley over them, Iqbali. I'd rather have a lot of people. Yeah, this is the rebuild. People like cussed out Tom Little and stuff, right? And I love cussing out Tom Little. You are right, like, you cuss him out. But you look at like the names that he has on this list. This is a way more realistic. No, not this one. The one with Isak. There's the one he posted with Ekitike. But regardless, like,
I'll find it.
Yeah. There's one he posted like a week ago with Ekitike in
Okay.
it. Yeah, I'm like, that's a lot more realistic than people think. Like Kamara, Ekitike, Gyokeres, Hato, you know, players like that, like Stiller. I just think that's around like what we will buy. And to be honest with you, listen, I don't have a problem with it as long as we get to all the positions that we need to get. Because we need DM, left back, center back, forward line player. I feel bad for Salah having to play with Diaz and Nunez and Jota and like, God. So yeah, like I genuinely can't wait for the summer because we need to do a lot of work. But I do think we have left ourselves way too much work to do, which is why not investing last summer is stupid, to be honest with you. So we need to just spread around the investment a little bit, you know? Yeah, this is the one. This is way more realistic than people think, by the way. Like, way more realistic than people think. You know, names like Hato, you know, Bade, Alexandro, Joao Mario. Not the old one, by the way. Not the Inter one, the young one, you know? Players like, you know, Bacetic, players like Kamara, Ekitike. I think this is not that far off reality, to be honest with you. I'm actually being dead serious because people are going like Isak. So let's say our transfer budget in the summer is 150 million. Okay? Let's say it's 150 million. I'll give you a hypothetical world in which Isak will go for 100 million. I'm giving like best case scenario. 100 million they sell him. So we've only got 50 million to work with for like the next 3-4 positions, and I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, even when you look at the players on there, what do you think about that, Mo? I mean, that's what Tom Little's put out. That means Ekitike, that's a signing. When he has, is that meant to be Diaz behind Gakpo, or is that Diaz?
Yes.
Okay.
No, Diao.
Oh, that is a different player. Okay, cool. I don't know. So there's Diao there. Dibbling as an example. Camera midfield wise, you've got Hato coming in, maybe 4 or 5 signings. Mo, do you see that level, that much money, that amount of signings being made by Liverpool if they keep Van Dijk and Salah?
I'm not, to be honest with you. I actually look at this team and I think, yes, Salah need to keep Van Dijk and Salah. Yeah, the Liverpool need to keep Van Dijk and Salah and everything. But come on, you have to move on at some point in terms of like the rebuild, though. You have to move on at some point. Like life is not gonna keep going on Salah and Van Dijk. Keep Salah, keep Van Dijk, but you have to get big names as well. I don't think Gakpo is good enough for Liverpool Football Club. By the way, the reason why Gakpo looks okay now is because Salah is scoring goals. I think Madueke has more GA than him, and he played way less games than Gakpo as well.
I don't think that's true. Be careful.
In the Premier League, yes, I think so. Or I think someone else also has someone that I'm not sure who, but we did it yesterday. Gakpo is good, but he's not Liverpool level to the point that they can build on a left winger. Gakpo has been at the club for 2.5 years. He's just a squad player. He shouldn't be a starter for Liverpool. Szoboszlai is good, but McAllister, Gravenberch, if you go with the same midfield again, people are gonna know how to play against that one, which is we have seen this season from PSG, from Newcastle as well. They need new names there. They need new names, right? And I think that if that means, I don't know, selling someone, one of the people that they have, like generating money, I think they need to do that as well. I don't know who they need. If they need to sell Szoboszlai, they sell Szoboszlai. But I don't think this is Ekitike up top.
We already know who we're selling.
Nunes. Okay, based on Tom, you're literally selling only Darwin Nunes. Okay, can you bring that picture again, Karim?
Nunes and Diaz.
How much do you think you're gonna generate?
Nunes and Diaz, yeah, Nunes, Diaz.
Yeah, how much do you think you're gonna generate? Can you speculate? 60 million max, 70.
Factually, Saudi wanted Nunez for like 70 million. And
do you think they're gonna want him after what you said about him on your video? For 70 million.
Stop it.
They want.
Hussam Liverpool, making a video does not reduce.
Not only Hussam. It is not only Hussam. It's not only Hussam.
Can you imagine if it did? Can you imagine if they bowl up, the Saudis turn up, they walk into the office and go, look, we were going to offer you 60 million, but we saw the world famous Don Hussam. We saw his video. We're only offering 35 now. Can you imagine they say that?
That's just, and if they really saw my video, they should offer 5 million then. But I wish I could increase.
You take it. It's not only you. It's all the Liverpool PR.
His reputation was shit in January, and they offered 70. Stop it. You're doing a straw man that does not work.
Hold on, Sam. I know you don't want to bet, right? You don't want to bet, but
what?
I guarantee you,
minimum we get 60. We don't get less than that.
60 million pounds for the minimum. I don't want to do bets, but
no, we will get minimum 60 million. We will, because it's not what me and you think of him. It's his rep in Europe. Like it's his reputation. It's the fact he's Uruguay's number 9. He plays for Liverpool Football Club. Blah blah blah. Like that's how you get money for players a lot of the time based off of a reputation. And I do think Diaz goes to Barcelona. Jota might stay, might leave. I don't know, to be honest with you, but. Yeah, that's basically the money generated right there. It's 70 and a 60, it's a 60 and a 50, something like this, 110 million generated. But we do need our own money as well to spend. So, yeah.
Liverpool are in a great place actually to dominate in the next 2-3 years. If they just keep these players and spend the 300 million that Arsenal said they're going to spend. Wallahi, Liverpool.
They are worse than the Zhang family more. Don't even start it.
Do you know what I when I hear
it, dominate the league, bro?
Do you know what I always go back to? It reminds me of in my banking days, because I used to I remember where I was when I made this content. I remember I spent some time with some Liverpool content creators, and they were talking me through the new. Remember the new Nike deal that you guys did, where you were getting like a percentage for every piece of Liverpool merchandise that had Nike on it, and you were getting like a percentage, and it was going to change the financial landscape of football forever. Didn't work, but I remember like everyone bigging it up and how much money they were going to spend. And I remember at the same time, it was the January that we signed Bruno Fernandes. So obviously you guys were going on to win the league, and there was talk about what you were going to do that summer. And I just remember it felt like nearly every single transfer window since then. Obviously you went and signed Darwin Núñez as an example, but it's always been this kicking of the can down the street. We'll get Bellingham next year. We don't need a midfielder now. Bellingham is coming. We don't need X, Y, and Z today. We're going to buy this player next time. The only thing I would say about this, and I remember doing this bit of content outside the office I used to work in. I remember some Liverpool fan walked past and he was, and I remember just going, yeah, we're getting so-and-so, are we? I was like, I'm only reading what the papers say. Don't like, and I got suckered in by it. And it was always, Liverpool, you're going to have a really big summer. January is going to be massive for you. And I feel like what Pierce is doing here, and we know he fell out with Liverpool or Klopp, right? And for me, I feel like he's trying to weasel his way back in. And I just think he's the kind of person that will say to FSG, I will spin and sell anything you want for the access, for that exclusive slot interview, for that exclusive interview with Salah. If he signs his new deal, I will push whatever you want. And I feel as though they're gearing you up for a very inactive summer if they stay. If those players leave, you can't be inactive because there's going to be these massive holes. But even then, this is where Liverpool got to be mindful. You've got holes to fill if they stay. If they leave, you can't just be satisfied with, well, we bought a right winger and we bought a centre back. Well, that has to happen. You've either got to renew 2 contracts or buy players, but you need at least 2 new attackers. As an example, you need a new left back. And I know Conor Bradley looks very, very good, but there is still
he can't be starter. He can't be.
It's still a risk giving a young player that
It's similar to Gakpo. It's okay.
Yeah.
Similar to Gakpo, him. Similar.
Yeah. So look, I understand the panic I'm seeing online today from Liverpool fans, the worry, and I think it's the amount of times that you've been spun a yarn, had your leg pulled, and not seen your club fully deliver on the, who is it? I know now. I know. Do you know who they were in the January? Do you know who the players were in that January? I remember who those players were. I'm trying to relive when I used to talking on my phone, walking along. And I know they've turned out to be crap, but that's irrelevant to the point of spending money. It was in that January where you were linked to, and it was almost a guarantee because of the German connection that you were getting Werner and Kai Havertz. And
Timo Werner, yeah.
And let's not pretend that Liverpool, everybody wanted those 2 players 5 years ago. 5-6 years ago, everybody wanted those players. Let's not lie about it now. And although there'll be Liverpool fans saying, well, I'm glad we didn't. We did the right thing by not buying them. Yes, I understand in terms of the individuals, but you don't ever know in life. Kai Havertz under Klopp could have been a successful signing. I'm just putting that out there. Life can work that way at times. However, it's the kicking the can down the street. It's always the next window. And I feel like FSG is setting you up for that, which I would be concerned about, is all I'm saying. I would be a little bit concerned about that personally.
Guys, Terry can see it as a Man United fan. If you're a Liverpool fan in the chat and you still can't see it, then you just can't be helped, to be honest with you. So, yeah. But it is true. Like, it's always been this next summer approach. Oh, next window is going to be massive. I promise you, if you search war chest summer for the last 5 years, you will find an article talking about a war chest summer every single year. So, yeah, it's never going to change.
Liverpool, and I remember, again, it was probably 3 summers ago now. It might have been 4. I remember making content about Liverpool, and it was this arrogance of, we haven't bought a midfielder, but it's because next summer we're getting Bellingham. We're going to get Bellingham. And by the January, he'd pretty much agreed to go to buy Real Madrid. And it was like, well, now what? Now you've basically wasted 2 summers of not investing for a player that went to Real Madrid. And that's actually, I think, what stopped you winning more trophies. You reinvesting in your midfield last summer, but that investment should have started 2 years prior. And I just think that's something you've really got to push for at Liverpool. When you're champions, the most important thing to do is invest well that following summer. If you invest well each year that you become champions, there's a much bigger chance and probability of retaining your title. They really
but that's why even like with the Tom thing, like, out of the players that he brought in, which are all realistic Liverpool signings, 30 million, 40 million, Jonathan David on a free from Lille type thing, that's to be honest more like what we would more likely do. People come here and tell me, Isak, yeah, it would be great, but that's literally like the price of our whole transfer budget. So I don't know how we're supposed to get that done right there. So I look at us and, as long as we get the business done that we need to, I don't care if they're young or old, because we do have an old, experienced core around who are all winners, so they can get the kids to lead the leadership that they need, to be
Yeah.
in that level.
I hear that, but you even look at this with City, right? City became champions in 2021. That summer, they signed Julian Alvarez. They got him in the January. They brought in Jack Grealish to the football club. So they went out and they still spent 140 million that season. The following year, right? They went and bought Erling Haaland. They bought Akanji. I'm talking that Syria. They got Ortega in goal. They got Phillips, hasn't worked out, but they went and got Phillips as an example. But adding Haaland to that team, it's like that extra layer. And then you look at then last summer, they went and added Guardiola, Nunes, Doku, Kovacic. Obviously, went on to win that league title. And then you look at the summer just gone. They only bring in Savinho, and then some players have aged out. And it's just you've got to, if you keep going big, once you've got a team that's winning, and every year just let's add in, because this is the thing. If you'd have invested year in, year out, I think you'd have won more, which would mean you might have more prize money. Yeah. Then this summer you could just go, there's your new contract, Mo, and boom, Isak, you're ours, and then you're laughing. So you just got to keep spending, and it's the nature of football. This year it says, I am sure Gyokeres is coming to United. I think Amorim is almost demanding it. It would be very good for Højlund and the other young players.
I believe your only other true competition in the league right now is Chelsea. I don't think any other club is interested in him like that. Like obviously United are one club that's really interested in him. I think the other club is Chelsea. I don't think anyone else is really that interested. I think Arsenal have different targets. Liverpool have different targets. Like I wouldn't even be shocked if Liverpool get a Sesko. I'll be honest with you. Like that's a genuine possibility.
Why is that?
Unfortunately, it's a genuine possibility. There is nothing I can do about it.
Is it because of the age thing? Nobody wants to sign.
Yeah, he's literally a Darwin Núñez waiting to happen. Like he's literally a Darwin Núñez.
So you're convinced that he's not good enough?
Yeah, I don't like Sesko at all. I don't like Sesko.
Sorry, no. I'm talking about Gyokeres.
No. See, but this is why you interrupted me in the wrong time. I said Gyokeres only has United and Chelsea to choose from. That's my honest opinion. I think those are the two clubs that will compete for him this summer.
So why Liverpool won't sign him?
Because we're not looking at him. Yeah, we're not looking at him. We're looking at different targets. Arsenal are looking at different
Julian
targets.
Alvarez. You're looking at Julian Alvarez from Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Rihanna. She's going to call me after the stream.
Inta Saim, just come on. You're fasting. Have some shame.
You can't look at Rihanna fast.
You can't look at Rihanna now. You cannot look at Rihanna now. You can
call me later.
Yeah. Anyway, can I ask you guys something? Does the league get weaker next season? Salah, Van Dijk leave, Liverpool get like Cisco's, and nobody gets the superstars. Does the league get weaker, stronger?
If they both leave, yes. But so if they don't,
I think I'm looking at next season, and unless Arsenal do the madness that they're talking about, which is they get Zubamendi and they get a striker and they get like a left, Nico Williams, and Arsenal become very strong. Because we look at City signings, all due respect to Kozanov and Nico Gonzalez, they're not making City stronger. There's Kevin De Bruyne leaving. There is a lot of people leaving from Man City, Bernardo, and these guys that Edison. It doesn't look like Man City.
By the way, just let me tell you something more. Just like clubs go through transition seasons, leagues also go through transition seasons.
Because I was thinking about this, wallahi.
Because here's the thing, 10 years ago, Gerrard, Lampard, all these players finally left, and they stopped becoming Premier League players. And
Ricky Lambert and these guys.
Yes, and for a period of 2 years, it's not even a mockery thing, I'm being serious. For a period of 2 years, everyone just sat there and went like, who the hell am I supposed to
Andy Carroll was the hot prospect in the Premier League at that time.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to. So it took like 2 years for like Pep to come and blah 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 and transfers to be made. But I don't think Magnus is far off here. I do agree with what Magnus is saying. I think he will end up being a Man United player. But I think the only other competition for you is Chelsea. And Todd Bowley is a psychopath.
Yeah,
so good luck.
I think there's some truth. I like Gyokeres. I like what he stands for. I like how he plays. There is a little bit of a risk, but actually the buyout clause makes it a far more palatable risk to take. It's not 120 million pounds. You're probably looking at around 60 million, which I think is actually, ironically, he could be cheaper than Højlund was. And I think what's really important is when you look at this graphic here. Now, I understand that XG is also
cheaper than Højlund. What do you mean?
or Rasmus Højlund cost us 70 odd million. He could be cheaper than Højlund.
How?
Because his buyout clause is around £60 million.
It's not 100 yet. They said it's going to be 100 in the summer.
No, it's about it was 80 odd million euros in the January. I think it's like 70 odd million euros in the summer, I think. But give or take, it's in and around that price. But the reason I say that is this: I want to preface this thing about XG. XG is a really interesting thing because I think it demonstrates how you would assess the quality of a chance. And I think there is some merit in that. So a tap in from 2 yards out with no goalkeeper is going to be very high versus a shot from the edge of the box on the right hand side, 30 odd yards from 20 odd yards, 30 odd yards from goal. However, what it doesn't factor in is who's taking that shot. So when you look, for instance, at this graphic today that's come out that shows obviously Nottingham Forest, they're in a brilliant position, but they have outperformed their XG by 11 goals. Wolves this season, ironically, by 8 goals. Brentford, City, Liverpool, everybody's well above it. But you actually think about that and you think about who's scoring that. You've got Forest, you've got Chris Wood, who's on an absolute madness. We know City are always above their XG because they have someone like Haaland who just manages to find space and score goals. Liverpool, we know your XG is there because of Mo Salah. And some of that is goals that you think, he scored that. Well done to him as an example. Isak scores a lot of goals that I'm not saying they're impossible. If you look at Newcastle, they're not impossible, but he'll be sort of inside the box, like 16, 17 yards out at an angle, and he'll take a shot at the near post, and it flies into that top corner with so much power. There's not very many strikers in the league that can make
like the
shot.
goal against us, St. James's Park.
Exactly, that type of goal. And he's scoring that maybe, I swear I've seen him score similar goals to that 5 or 6 times this season. So this is why getting the right striker is important for a team. Because if you just look at this list and you look at teams that don't have great strikers, West Ham, Man United, Spurs, Bournemouth is interesting that it's low, considering how well they've played this season. I'd love to look into that more. But I'm not surprised to see Chelsea down there as an example. But can you imagine Man United, their XG is at 27, right? Which is actually higher than Nottingham Forest. Can you imagine if we had a prolific scorer like Forest and had those extra goals, what that could do? We would easily be sitting 5, 6, 7 places higher in the league. That doesn't mean you only need a striker at Man United or Chelsea, but I think it goes a long way to improving you. If Chelsea, who, by the way, Chelsea's XG is 45. So in the league, only Liverpool at 55 have created more goal-scoring opportunities than Chelsea. If Chelsea were just on point, they'd be in this title race, which is why, and by the way, that's the collective XG for all of their attackers. So that not all those chances are falling to the centre forward. But that's why I looked at Chelsea's attack, and I think it's such an important area for them to improve. Even with their goalie, even with their bad defensive line at times, if they had Palmer scoring and they had a Gyokeres scoring goals, they would still be in this title race, in my opinion. So for me, I think United or Chelsea going for Gyokeres, back to that super chat, it's so key to get somebody that has the ability to be prolific. It changes the outlook of a team when you have a prolific striker. The same as when you have a goalkeeper like Alisson. Alisson was the difference between, I know you went out in the end on penalties, but he was the difference between you narrowly going out on penalties and you getting
3-0.
No, mate, I actually think if you had a goalkeeper of, say, Onana or worse, Sanchez in goal, you probably lose that tie 5-1 on aggregate. Maybe more. Like, you would have got battered. So you suddenly get a world-class goalie and you get yourself a prolific goal scorer. You think about Chelsea for a minute. With the midfield they've got, I just suddenly think they're a different team. I think they're genuinely a different football team. So, look, I hope that Man United get Gyokeres. I think it will go a long way to improving us next season. But you have Rasmus, bro. Yeah, I know. And he ain't cut the mustard. First world problems for Liverpool compared to Arsenal's owners.
No, this is total horse shit. Your problems are first world problems. Our problems are third world problems because we don't spend money. Your problem is, oh my God, Arteta bought this player instead of that player, but you always spend money. So quit
I'll be honest with you, Hassam, right? I'll be honest with you. What you just said there is the most, between the two of you, is the most first world problem argument I've ever heard in my life. two billionaire-owned clubs that spend hundreds of millions going, we've got it too hard.
They spend a lot more than us. They spend a lot more than us.
Luton Town is sitting there going, fucking hell, we have to walk through someone's house to get into our stadium.
There you are.
Now, but Arsenal owners, there is a problem with Arsenal, to be honest with you, King. Now you guys are choosing to do this because of one window when the owners said we're not buying a striker. What about the summer when you bought 2-3 players? What about the summer before when you bought £100 million player and Declan Rice and Kai Havertz as well? What about him buying Jesus and Zinchenko, Arteta? Like, one window does not change the fact. I think Arsenal fans now are choosing this, that the owners are a disgrace because of one window. They are a disgrace. This is exactly what you're doing now. You have had every opportunity to do stuff.
I'm taking Josh Kroenke over Fenway Sports Group all day, every
and
day.
you did.
Give
and
me
you
Kroenke,
did.
you can have John. No problem.
One time they failed you. One time in the summer they didn't get us a striker. No. Have you thought about that you wanted Sisco, and because Sisco said no, Arsenal said we're not spending in anyone else because Arteta wants Sisco. You know how would that be proven? If you still get Sisco this summer, that means you only wanted Sisco and your manager, because the money was there. The owners said, we are willing to spend the money on Sisco, right? The negotiations were there. The money is there. And now Sisco said no. And then they said, okay, we're not signing anyone. We're getting Raheem Sterling on loan. That means there was an agreement at the club that we only want Sisco. And it will be proven by...
Yeah, I think it was Arteta's choice to not get anyone after Sesco. I'll be honest with you.
I think there's a combination here. I've said it all along. I think Arteta did the mistake Arteta made is I think he thought Kai Havertz will score more goals than last season, and I think we can get Odegaard and Martinelli back to 2 seasons ago's goal levels. And the biggest flop in that, I think, was actually the Odegaard and the Martinelli goal element. Because if they were both tracking towards 15 goals each this season, like they did 2 years ago, again, Arsenal's season would be very, very different indeed. I also feel, though, with the ownership, to a degree, again, hindsight's lucrative, isn't it? They shouldn't have allowed that decision to take place. There should be someone like Berta at the football club who's gone, nah, they ain't it. There should be somebody assessing that with a footballing pedigree that says, no, we're adding in this player because we want to, and then if you're right and Martinelli and Odegaard deliver, you've got Gyokeres as well. That would have been that's how I look at these things. It's they took a bet, they took a gamble, and it went wrong. Hussam, what is Liverpool's wage situation?
Second.
I think we have wages that are inflated.
Second.
And it's second behind Man City. And it's going to go up massively. So Liverpool's output depends when they pay their bonuses. But Liverpool's output's going to jump up because they do a lot of incentive-based contracts, which means whatever you see someone like Mo Salah's base on, it's going to grow by 2/3 because the bonuses are like these massive payouts that are the equivalent of them being on 300 or 400 grand a week in salary. So with them winning the league, yeah, you're going to Liverpool's wage bill will probably jump up to over the next 12 months when it gets reported will probably be one of the maybe the highest in the league at that point. It's already one of the highest, but it'll become one of the highest because it's very incentive driven. So and that's also a negative because when they were winning before, they started spending less because the wage bill went up. Because the wage bill went up. This here says owners don't view clubs like fans do. Getting Champions League football and its revenue is the aim. Fans want trophies and good football. Owners want a profit.
This is spot on from Patrick. Absolutely spot on. He's right.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna move on to the Isak conversation because for me, I want to ask you guys a question on that. Right?
What are you eating? What is this?
These, mate. These are the bomb. Magic Mind.
Magic Mind.
Magic Mind.
That make you smarter because people call you clickbait.
That's how I think of all my ideas.
All right.
The drink, I do their shots in the morning. These things here, they're really good. So you boys drink coffee, right?
Yeah.
Drink one of these with your coffee, and I can't explain it like a scientist, but the way coffee kind of helps give you energy. What this does is like a complement to caffeine, so it helps prolong that throughout the course of the day, which is really nice. But these gummies are essentially their version of a sweet, But they're full of goodness. They're not full of the crap that you get in Haribo's or anything. I eat like 3 or 4 of them a day. Normally during shows and stuff. Good for focus, good for keeping a calm mind and less stress. You can give them to your kids as well, people. And if any of the viewers want them, you can get a 45% discount today by scanning the QR code. But what I'll do for you boys, I know you're fasting at the minute, but I'll get Magic Mind to send a pack out to yourselves. Trust me, they're nice. They're nice, but I don't know about you. I do this a lot. I'll be in the middle of the day working. I'm like, fancy something sweet or fancy a snack. So instead of eating a donut or grabbing a handful of sweets, I use Magic Mind. So yeah, very, very nice. Yeah, I'll get you guys a pack sent out. They're very, very good indeed. Full of lovely health. I want to ask you guys a question here about Arsenal. Well, there's a story today from Give Me Sport that is stating that Newcastle are ready to offer Isak a new contract and nearly double his salary. And I don't think any of us are going to be surprised to see Newcastle going on the offensive, being assertive and looking to keep him. We know that Liverpool have already started having conversations with his backroom staff. It's been reported by a number of sources that Arsenal will make an approach. We also know, and I want to put this comment up because I think it's really, really important earlier, that states that the Newcastle owner has told staff that they must keep Isak at any cost. They cannot let him go. They're pushing that it's a non-story. They will not be letting him leave in any capacity whatsoever. We've had Marky here that has said no issue with players being linked elsewhere, but this one doesn't make any sense. He isn't going to go. If Newcastle's media briefings are to be believed, them offering a new deal, is this a transfer that Arsenal should step away from now in March and focus elsewhere? Or do you think, because it looks like they're going to fight for him, do you think Arsenal should do that? Or should they take the advice of Newcastle fans? Should they take the advice of the ownership that it's a non-starter and walk away? What do you think Arsenal should do?
This is why Arab owners are the best owners you could ever get, because they don't give a shit. They just want to win. They're here for the love of the game. Saudi Arabia is not using Newcastle to make money because Saudi Arabia prints money by the millisecond as we're speaking. You get me? That's more money than we've ever seen in our life. So when it comes to this type of ownership, this is the type of like ambition owner that we should all want. But when it comes from Arsenal perspective, look, I still think they should try. Like, I'm not saying Arsenal should not try. Like, even a Newcastle fan will tell you, like, come try for him at least. But it's about whether the fact that you get him over the line or not. Like, that's the thing. So okay, so because Terry's question is, I understand Terry's question, because his question is, okay, let's say Arsenal go into the summer and their 2 targets are Isak and Sesko. While Arsenal are trying to convince Isak, Liverpool go sign Sesko, as an example. And then Arsenal are sat there going like, oh shit, now Isak is not coming and Sesko's gone. What do we do now? Type thing, which is very logical way of looking at it. If you can't give yourself less time to pivot and make a decision to go from option A to option B. Now with Isak, because he's so amazing, you should still try. You should still like go like, okay, Newcastle, how much do you want? Is there anything we can negotiate? Is there a player you would take, etc., etc., etc.? And so should Liverpool. We should try, but at the end of the day, if the Newcastle demands are way too much and Isak is showing no interest in leaving, then there's no point pursuing it. And on top of that as well, we have to keep in mind it's very important this season to watch if Newcastle make top 4 or not, like top 5 or not, Champions League or not. Because after winning the Carabao Cup, they've essentially qualified for the Conference League now, which is obviously not something Isak's going to look forward to. Like, yeah, I'm in the Conference League. Like, obviously, he's not going to be looking forward to that. He's going to be looking forward to Champions League level football, which is why if they do get top 5, I think, I'll give you a very straightforward answer. Newcastle get top 5, give up. Isak staying at Newcastle, essentially. Genuinely, just give up. Just give it up. He's not gonna leave. That's what
I was gonna ask you. I don't think Isak leaves if Newcastle make Champions League, because I think Newcastle can pay him the wages he wants. And Newcastle, at the current moment, he has been at the team for a long time. I think Arsenal should give up. They shouldn't even target Isak. Not even Liverpool. I don't think he's going anywhere. The only place he would go, he might go to the Real Madrids or the Barcelonas if they are in for him.
Yeah.
If they are in for him, but if they make Champions League, he's not going anywhere. And listen, People should be scared of Newcastle. I promise you this. People should be scared. This can be another Man City. This can be another Man City team. I'm not saying scared like you should fight them. It's good that we have another team that will be able to compete. Of course, instead of Spurs, which is better for the football with Arab owners, of course.
Here we go. Here we go.
I'm being serious.
Oh,
People should be scared of Newcastle. People should be scared of Newcastle. If Newcastle get Champions League football and they start spending money, right, and they start expanding, I genuinely believe that Newcastle will be challenging for the title within 5 years. And I believe genuine challenge with a genuine opportunity, a real one, to win the title, like what Man City did. If they keep these players, remember, these players are young. Newcastle are investing. They get Champions League money. I believe these guys are just going to go and make this team even better. Is it Eddie Howe the guy or not? I promise you, these guys are not shy. They're going to get rid of, if Eddie Howe is not the guy for them, they're going to get rid of Eddie Howe and get a top manager to get them to the top. These are the Arab owners for you. That's why everyone wants an Arab owner, because they don't care about the money, as Sam said. But if they make Champions League, bro, nobody's getting Isak. Nobody's getting
nobody's getting him.
Nobody's getting Gyokeres. Nobody's getting these people.
I agree to a certain extent. And what I mean by that is the only way Arsenal, Liverpool, anybody get Isak is if Isak wants to leave. Because look, I get what you're saying about the owners. Their desire is to win. Man City, though, do allow players to leave that want to leave. They let, and I would say that Isak is better and more of a star of the team. But Julian Alvarez was allowed to leave and they still needed him. Sane was allowed to leave. They still needed him. So when a player wants to go because they want to win, they understand, these owners, that you don't hold on to individuals that do not want to be at your club. And I think that this is what Arsenal and what Liverpool have got to get their heads around quickly. I think what you cannot do, Man United made this mistake with De Jong. I think De Jong was open to coming to Man United, but we wouldn't pay his deferred wages. And Barca said, if you leave, you don't get them. That was in the contract. So even though Barca accepted our bid, we couldn't get out of that deal. We couldn't get the deal done. That wasn't the mistake. The problem was spending 3 or 4 months on it and then not landing him. I've quite liked Casemiro, but then getting Casemiro at the 11th hour, when actually we could have added Casemiro in the beginning of the summer, given him a pre-season and started the season better. That is what I think Arsenal have to do here. I've said all along, and a lot of Newcastle fans have hated this conversation happening, and I think it's an important one to have, because there's also a lot of compliments towards your club in here. I think he could be sold, but it will be if the player says no. So, for instance, say he rejects his new deal, then I think you, if you're Arsenal, if you're Liverpool, if you're any other potential suitor, I think
you should make a move. You should.
You make a move instantly and you say, boom, well, we'll offer you that same money or maybe a bit more. Bang. Newcastle, he doesn't want to stay. So you're going to start losing value on him. So look, there's 100 million to start with as an opening bid. You would never just offer the 150 straight away. You would always try and negotiate that down. If, however, you're an Arsenal intermediary, you're an agent, and you look, the player doesn't mind coming to Arsenal, but he'll probably agree to your terms, but he's very happy here at Newcastle. So you've got to do the deal with Newcastle. If that's the word, walk away instantly. Because if the player isn't pushing to leave, Newcastle will only accept obscene money. And the problem is with spending obscene money. Now, this might trigger some Newcastle fans. I think Isak's amazing. But I don't think he's worth 150 to 200 million pounds to Liverpool or Arsenal. When you consider you could get Osimhen, Turkey, and Nico Williams as an example for the same price combined. And that adds, and I think then your team becomes stronger. You've got more versatility. You've strengthened multiple areas. And that isn't because Isak isn't a brilliant player, but you're spending a lot more money on him. I don't think Isak for 150 million, that's almost double the price of Victor Osimhen. I don't think he scores you double the goals.
I agree. He doesn't.
He might score more goals, but I don't think he's scoring double the goals. I don't think you're getting double the level of performance, double the consistency.
The value is more than, I think the value of him in the Premier League, at Arsenal, the clutch moments and all this stuff, I think it's Worst
I
money. The
understand-
clutch
I
moment.
understand.
It's not about the number of goals only. It's about what time do you score? How many points can he win on his own?
True.
Like you can Alexander Isak on his own might win Arsenal next season 24 points or 18 points on his own, just 6 games. He wins them. He wins Arsenal these 18 points. And maybe these 18 points are worth that extra 70, 80 million because they are worth winning the Premier League for them. Maybe it is. But I'm questioning why would Isak join Arsenal if Newcastle make Champions League? Do we think the trajectory of Arsenal are better than Newcastle? Especially, okay.
You always overdo it. You always overdo it. Like you could be cooking and then you do too much. Like, is the trajectory of Newcastle better than Arsenal? Just because Newcastle won a Carabao Cup doesn't mean they have better trajectory, Mo. Relax. They still need to prove it. Calm down.
But you, if you let me finish that sentence, because based on Arsenal fans, the owners are a disgrace. Not based on me, based on your logic, the owners are a disgrace, and the owners of Newcastle are great. So which one would you choose? Not Mo. It's based on
No,
you.
me, I would choose Newcastle owners, of course. I would choose Newcastle owners. Are you mad? Bring Newcastle owners to Liverpool right now. We'd win everything. I have no problem with that whatsoever, bro. Bring me a Newcastle owner. But that doesn't mean when we're talking trajectories, I'm saying Newcastle still have to prove it. That's all I'm saying. It's just to start
I
this beginning.
understand that. But I'm just looking at Osimhen here this season, right? So I didn't watch all of these games, but I'm just looking at his goals. And so many of his goals, he's got the opening goal on a good number of occasions. Just me reading this quickly, I've just got what we on now. He's got 22 goals. I've already counted like 5 winning goals, 3 equalizing goals. 1 was a penalty, but again, they're real goals. I think we'll all agree on that on here. I am not saying I don't think Osimhen is as good as Isak. I'm not stating that. I just look at it and think this is why Arsenal and Liverpool need to be careful. If the player is saying, look, I am not signing a new deal at Newcastle, thank you for everything, but I want to go, then I think you push hard and you push to drive the price down. You could get him for 110, 120 maybe. I think if you have to start at 150 and it could rise because the player is indifferent about leaving and the club have zero desire to sell, you then start going into the realms where you're taking away from another player that you could potentially buy that also makes your team better. And I do think Arsenal and Liverpool have to weigh that option up. But look, it's positive news for Newcastle that they're offering him a new deal.
Yeah, but don't make it drag into a saga, Terry. That's my point. Because if it drags into a saga, it's going to be 4 months of BS, essentially.
I agree.
Like,
I
just
agree.
listen, within the first 2 weeks, a month, you can know already what's going on.
And also, I think for Liverpool and Arsenal, there's something that's not really been discussed a lot, but I think it's so important when you look ahead of this summer. Man City and Chelsea, who depending upon their transfer business will be in top 4 races or title races, neither, especially if they're successful, are going to have a preseason. They're not going to have a preseason. So when it comes to, well, because they've got the Club World Cup ends in the middle of July, Man United's first preseason game is 3 days after that. So that Chelsea squad is then going to go, that City squad is going to go on what, a 2 week, 3 week, 4 week break before the season starts. Otherwise, it's literally going to be 0 break. So the point I'm making here is when you're Liverpool and you're Arsenal, the other 2 teams are really considered. Already we're looking at it and saying we'll probably be in and around a title race, or at least have the expectations there. You want to try and get your business done early as best you can, because what would be amazing for your 2 teams is to have a full preseason with the vast majority of your new signings and players, so you can start that season well. Because there is the possibility, no matter what City do, City could spend 400 million this summer, especially if they win the World Cup, right? Because there's big money in it. But if they're not playing together and they're not integrating together, it might take them 6 weeks. It might take them 2 months to really get going and to really gel. By then, if you're a Liverpool, if you're an Arsenal, and by the way, I think Newcastle, if they have a good summer and keep Isak, I think if Forest invest well this summer when they make the Champions League, because I think they will, they'll look at it this way. We can start well and create a bit of a buffer. It enhances everybody's opportunity of making the Champions League, which is important, because I actually think all the teams that are in and around the Champions League fight this year, I do think their clubs, I know FSG have a way of buying and they're going to stick to it. But I still think your clubs all want to win trophies. I don't think, I think there's a question mark over Arsenal. I get that. Some Chelsea fans don't agree with it, but I certainly think Newcastle. I think Manchester City, as an example. I think Nottingham Forest. I think those owners want to win trophies. I think they want to win the big things. So,
I agree.
100%.
I just think that this summer there's an opportunity here for anyone who's fighting for top four, anybody that thinks they're going to be in a title race, to try and get the march on Chelsea and Arsenal, and that's by buying as early as possible, being together for pre-season, and being ready to go day one of the Premier League, because you could create a 6-9 point gap early on in the season, which is hard to make up later on down the line. So yeah, I think getting into some drawn out saga is the worst thing anyone can do in this scenario.
Yeah, within a month you can figure it out. And if Newcastle make Champions League football, in my opinion, and I think Mo agreed with this earlier on as well. Listen, just give it up. Like if they make top 5, like just give up.
There are other players around.
And also, why is everyone acting like Osman is shit all of a sudden? I don't get that.
There's Lautaro Martinez as well. They can buy that one. It'll be a box striker.
Quaylen's available. Do you know what I love about the Osimhen talk, right? All season it's been, but he's never had more than one season where he scored over 20 league goals. Well, he's done it now this season. It was always coming. He's got 20 league goals in 22 games this season. It's his best goals to game ratio. He has 26 goals in 30 games. He had 6 goals in 7 European matches, and he's not playing for a particularly good team. So look, he's a very good striker. Has 140 goals in 250 games as a professional player, as an example. He has 23 goals in 39 international games for Nigeria. He's a very good striker. He really is. I'd love him at Man United, and he's a good soul. Super chat here says, I know Hussam's thoughts, but Terry and Mo, what do you think about the debate over the general quality of the Premier League this season? One of the weakest ever.
No, it's one of the strongest ever. That's why Fulham might be favorites at their home against any team in the Premier League. Can we ever say that any season? Brighton at their ground are favorites against anyone, including Liverpool. But the Premier League is weak. The fact that Liverpool won these games is why people think that and I explained this plenty of times. The fact that Liverpool had these clutch moments that gave them these 12 points extra, which is why Salah, when you have an exceptional player that is about to break the records and he actually makes the difference, that's why you have a 12 points more than the second place. It is not because the league is weaker. It's because they had the edge with that guy over the rest of them. But everyone goes to Aston Villa, to Villa Park, inferior. Everyone picks Aston Villa to win at their ground. Everyone picks Fulham to win. Brighton, Forest. And I'm going to tell you, even though City are weak, but Forest really beat them with ease. That tells me that Forest got stronger as well. But because Liverpool have 12 points, it's a weak league. Yes, but they have Mohamed Salah as well. They have... Okay, guys, I'm just going to say this and let Hussam talk. 3 goals or 3 assists, and we have arguably seen the best ever individual performance in the Premier League by numbers. So, logically speaking, that team has the 12 points ahead because of that performance, not because others are weak.
Terry, you should answer because it said Hussam, Terry, and Mo.
Just
Get your ass
I look at it this way. I've been thinking about this a lot since our conversation on Monday on this exact same subject. I think my conclusion on this conversation, after debating it with multiple people, and your mind does change because they open your eyes. I think it's a very competitive Premier League season, very competitive. And I think people have got their wires crossed when they're saying it's the weakest ever. I think that when you start delving into more of the conversation, like with Dan Potts, what Dan Potts was more alluding to yesterday on Straight Facts was there was just more world-class strikers and more top-quality strikers 20 years ago than there are now. There were more top-quality midfielders than there are now. There were more top-quality centre-backs than there are now. And I agree with that statement. So there are centre-backs, midfielders, and strikers now that would have competed to be the best with some of the greatest from a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades ago. But I feel the depth is weaker. So that I agree with. What I do think, it's been a very competitive Premier League season where there has been much more of a a coming together overarching quality. Now, I think part of that is because City and Arsenal went backwards this year, because Liverpool have been far away better than everybody else. You can tell by the points difference. I expected Arsenal and City to be closer to where Liverpool are at this point. So those two have individually dropped off, but that's because of a summer of bad recruitment, injuries, and a few other different problems like that, as an example. The rest of the league, I think, has been very, very competitive. The fact that, look, we're not going to do it, by the way. The fact that Man United, after everything, with 10 games to go, are only 12 points off the top four is fucking mental. It's crazy. And I use us as an example because of how bad we have been and everything else. And I was thinking about Chelsea the other day. I was thinking, imagine they lose the next couple of games and United would have won them. And suddenly United are 6 points behind them. That would add a bit of insult to injury. So, yeah, look, I think the wording's really important here. I think the overall depth of quality of football player is lower now than it was a decade, 2 decades ago. Do I think it's been an uncompetitive, boring, crap Premier League? No, I think it's been an excellent one.
The quality is much higher. People talk about Mbuemo, Semenyo, even Chris Wood is scoring goals, Elanga, and all these guys are playing. Morgan Gibbs, Morgan Rogers. We're talking about the quality is down. Morgan Rogers was walking to a lot of teams.
I hear
it's
that.
ninth in the league.
Why didn't Newcastle invest when they got top 4? That's because they couldn't, because of FFP and PSR problems.
Yeah,
they've had to increase their revenues to be able to do that. He doesn't need to sign a Newcastle contract. Arsenal can offer him more than double his current wages. You're actually right. He doesn't need to sign it. And if he doesn't sign it and says no to Newcastle, then it's likely they'll sell him and cash in at the maximum value.
No.
You're wrong, Mo. Arteta was begging to bring someone in this January window. There were preference targets, but he also said he was short. Owners fouled us.
And I said that in January transfer window they did, but that is only one window. Other windows, they backed him.
Yes.
They gave him the players he wanted.
Completely.
So one window does not change the fact that they backed him in every window. The Calafioris and Declan Rice's and
Kroenke thing completely came out of nowhere, by the way. I love it. Completely came out of nowhere.
Bro, you know why they want to do this? Because you guys, Liverpool fans, always say that about FSG, and now the Kroenkes are... Bro, I'm telling you guys, it's my conspiracy theory. I'm not in the know. All of this by Arteta, and we are short, and we want Oli Watkins, and all of this is to make Frank, you particular Frank, I'm talking to you, put the super chat in and sit at home and be convinced that it's the Kroenke's fault and it's not Arteta's fault. It really worked.
Highbury here says, I know Mo is gaslighting. He talks as if KSE joined in 2018. They had the majority ownership since 2011, and yet to win a major.
The reason why I'm falling asleep to that super chat, Highbury Ultra, is because the only reason Liverpool won the major honor in the FSG ownership is because of Jurgen Norbert Klopp and the team that he built. It's not because of the ownership, mister. Because when we had Kenny Dalglish, we won a Carabao Cup. We had Brendan Rodgers for 3 years, won fuck all, and had a lot of humiliating, embarrassing moments. So the time that changes when we got in that elite manager, Jurgen Klopp. So that's the difference, mate.
Also, I will say this. I will say this as well. Sorry to interject, but I've got to. FA Cups are major trophies. We've got to stop playing them down. Well, you can. People can say what they want. People are free to say what they want. But on the Football Terrace, you will get called out every time. The FA Cup is a major trophy.
And the League Cup. That's why I mentioned the
League Cup, but the League Cup is not better, Jamie Carragher. But there we go.
Yes.
If animals played football, what position would they be?
This is a very wrong.
I saw so many tweets about this.
I the whole thing, but
I'll give a quick answer. I put cheetah on the wings.
I saw some of a fox in midfield, and I'm like, you fox in a box. What are you talking about?
That's just absolute idiot.
I put a bear as a centre back.
No, the grizzly bear must be the striker because it's very versatile. Can swim, can kill,
climb,
can eat like everything, can climb.
Okay.
Fullback. You know? What do you have at fullback?
King of the jungle, the tiger has to be the centre back. The lion is the fullback. Yeah,
I like that.
He's a failed tiger.
What would you have in goal?
Easy.
The monkey.
Elephant.
Can dive everywhere.
Too slow.
gorillas can dive, can do everything.
If then
can
elephant
move.
can use his
The thing is, see, they're too small, right? But I like the idea of a cat going in goal because have you ever seen a cat? Like you're throwing a ball at a cat, they save everything, right? No, when a goalkeeper makes loads of good saves, they get called like the cat. It's like a nickname they get. So, but I'm just thinking maybe like a lynx, like a wild cat. Yeah, they get that.
But octopus is not an animal.
Octopus, yeah, it would dry. It would die.
yeah, if you put it in water, okay, but like other than that, no.
I hear you, but yeah, definitely. Fox in the box has got to be. I've seen people put him in midfield. Pause. Can we not do revisionism on Arteta? Because I believe he saw what the board was truly about and had to work with what he had. Because look at the list of players he wanted. Look, I'll say this very quickly. 110%. You have missed out on players. There's no doubt. But all managers miss out on players, as an example. At the same time, it doesn't mean that every ounce of blame for this season of Arsenal's goes on to Mikel Arteta. Anybody doing that is a liar or a fool. I completely agree with you. But I think in the summer, if he would have pushed harder or knew that he only had a limited budget, he should have pushed for another attacker over Calafiori and Marino. So it's either they said you've got 100 million to spend, what do you want it on? He picked the wrong players, or they didn't allow him to spend more. As an example, it's one of the, or maybe a combination of the two. So I still think he's got to take some blame. This here says the issue with Arsenal is that none of our fans don't want to talk about Edu's failures. Arteta wanted Isak, Rafinha, and Edu fouled. Do you know what, though? That's not strictly true, as in fans don't want to talk about it. Potsy, for instance, on the terrace from the beginning of this season has called out the ownership and has called out the poor investments that were made and not landing the manager's target. So I know for a fact that has been called out, and it should be called out. Aaron here,
Arteta, he only spent 700 million, man.
Aaron here says, if you were Arteta, Berta, this summer, who would you sign and who would you sell? Do you build on what Arsenal already have or get rid of what's holding them back? You build on what they've already got. You build on what they've got. You add in more goals, some more creativity. And I think you're cooking. You throw Isak into this team and someone like a Nico Williams, I'm just throwing their names out, and Zubimendi in the midfield. This Arsenal team has got the ability to win the league. I know you hate that one, but it's the truth. The issue with Arsenal, already done that one here. You can't mention the large amount of world-class strikers or midfielders we had back then, but not take into account that the other teams have had players and training facilities improve. The average player has raised.
I do agree with this. I'll just say this quickly, and that's the point I tried to argue to Dan Potts. Listen, some people just are nostalgic, and I understand that. Dan Potts himself said yes, it is probably a bit of nostalgia. But listen, I promise you, I grew up watching that era. There is no difference between Andy Johnson and essentially the strikers that we're watching right now that's getting like 15, 16, 17 goals. Same thing. You get me? Like, there's a striker that will come out every now and then, have a very good season, and that's Andy Johnson, So people just get way too nostalgic and just don't appreciate football right now for what it truly is.
Kimono Dragon and a kangaroo in midfield, you'll win. Yeah, kangaroo. There's some
kangaroo should be in midfield though. That's correct.
Kangaroo, like the DM, be the DM. Like they got some muscle on them. We can push Mo's illogical conspiracies, but KSC have done this before. Mikel Arteta, we've been close to winning, and they pulled funding. So who's the common denominator?
Total horse shit. You've never been close to winning one time in Wenger from 2011 until Arteta came, and you were never close to winning when Unai Emery was there either. And Unai Emery spent money as well with the likes of Pepe and other transfers.
Everyone is forgetting Man City already started the rebuild and will add in the summer, and Pep will go again. They will not sit back.
City will win the league next year.
Listen, they're going to spend a lot of money. They're going to be expected to do well. Nobody expects City just to sort of sail off into the sunset now and never try to win a league title again. I don't think anybody worth their salt has thought that or believed that at any particular point. So, yeah, listen, they're going to be there. What you've got to try and take advantage of, though, and I'll say it then, I'll say it again, is they will have no preseason to implement and train these new players that come in the summer. And I think the other clubs have got to get business done quick, early, get preseason done, and try to start on the front foot and create a gap early. It's always important when you're going up against a pep team to create a gap early. Listen, I want to thank every single person that has tuned in. I'll be back later today. Another new podcast launching today with Callum from the Coppish, who's going to be on the terrace with me later. So we're recording it literally after we film this. So that's out later tonight. A big shout out to Magic Mind. You can get up to 45% off their products now. And trust me, if you're on a health kick, if you're trying to get sleep better, focus better, cut the junk, cut the processed crap out, and start putting better quality into your body. So check out Magic Mind now by scanning the QR code or the link below. Is this redirecting to either of your channels, boys?
No.
Nope.
No redirect today. Listen, I want to thank everyone who's tuned in. Maybe we'll do
I'm
these shows.
redirecting to iftar 1 hour from now.
Bro, I am really going to have it. I'm hungry already, bro.
I didn't think so. Listen, everyone who's tuned in, thank you. Let us know if you like this show being a little bit earlier, just out of interest. Is it better at like lunch times, or do you prefer it mid-afternoon? Let me know now. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.